Hi, I'm Juro, and this is Moreno Morena Presents, a podcast where I interview different, interesting people every week to hopefully shed light on what it means to be a dark skinned Filipino. Today I'm talking to Gab Pangilinan, actor, performer, and streamer. We talk about our similar backgrounds, diversity in the performing arts, finding your people, and more. Don't forget to follow Moreno Morena on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to Moreno Morena Presents on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. Thanks and enjoy the interview. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Moreno Morena Presents. I didn't think I'd be doing another one of these this year, but thankfully we were able to get a very special guest today, which I think warrants the bringing back of the podcast. So, joining me, as you guys might have told from the title of the podcast, is Gab Pangilinan. She's a theater actress and more recently a streamer. So, we'll get into how her career interacts with the whole Moreno Morena advocacy of just being aware of colorism, standards of beauty, all that stuff. So, hi, Gab. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Juro. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Yeah.
too. So, it's the date of recording, Jan 11th. So, it's been quite a couple of days after the New Year. How have you been?
Yeah.
How have things changed, if
Good.
anything has changed?
Do you mean since the new year or since the pandemic hit? Because those are two very different things.
Since
No, but
the New Year, yeah.
um well, we're still here. Nothing much has changed really. I mean, we're still because 2020 was a big transition for everybody, of course, with everything that's going on around us, right? So, I guess in the new year, parang I'm not the type to really to make resolutions or things like that, but it's really more of a looking forward and how to move
Mm-hmm.
forward and to just keep moving, to keep
Yeah.
doing things and keep creating, especially because of 2020. I mean, it's still the same days and the days are just rolling on, right? So we
Yeah,
just keep
that's true.
going. Yeah.
So I've seen, okay, wait, I'll try not to get ahead of myself, but let's start with your background and kind of the
Sure.
meat of the whole interview. What is it like for you growing up, Morena?
It's interesting that Bute, you told me where your background, a
Uh
little
huh.
bit of your background as well, because I'm sure we kind of have similar
Yeah.
backgrounds. Because I grew up in a um I I was an econ, so Ika Green Hills is a Filipino Chinese school, and I'm not Chinese at all. Obviously, my parents thought it would be good to go to Ika because of the education.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no doubt that ICA has one of the best educations here in the country. And that's what my parents wanted for me. Um, and I'm very grateful for that. So, being a pure Filipino in a Filipino Chinese community, it was, I wouldn't say difficult. Thankfully, I wasn't like a big like victim of bullying or whatever. Of course, there were like hints, there were notes of like
Mm-hmm.
discrimination from both my peers and teachers, Chinese teachers even.
Yeah.
But and I sobrang unavoidable yun. Pero thankfully, I grew up medyo well-rounded kid ako. So I had Sunday school. I was exposed to workshops, theater workshops. And then the Filipino Chinese community in Ika and in Xavier and all that. So because I was exposed to many different kinds of people, it wasn't a problem for me to
Yeah.
really try to. I mean, obviously, I couldn't blend in, quote unquote,
Yeah.
but it was kind of like I could adjust or adapt well naman. And I had a good set of friends also, thankfully. I mean, of course, growing up, I mean, in any school, there are those petty fights,
Mm-hmm.
grade school, diba? And there were instances, of course, of like people in pure jest who would call me names.
Yeah.
But hindi ko alam kung bakit hindi ako pikon as a kid. So parang it never really bothered me, or
Mm-hmm.
it never, I wouldn't say it traumatized me, but in a way it kind of again just exposed me to people in general, like the different kinds of people that we would encounter, right? So parang um thankfully I was exposed to many different kinds of people as a kid. So even if I was called names, like the usual, nog-nog,
Yeah.
negra, yung mga ganyan, because of my dark skin, lalo na when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I loved to swim. As in, beach baby talaga kami ng mga kapatid ko. And we would go to the beach all the time. And growing up, of course, in a Filipino-Chinese community, whether pure Chinese sila or Filipino-Chinese man, naturally, their skin wasn't brown, wasn't dark like mine. So talagang iba. And I was maybe one out of the two in the classroom that was pure Filipino, di ba? So,
Yeah. Same.
di ba?
Yeah.
It's just how it was. So, thankfully, medyo good-natured naman ako as a kid. So, I didn't let all the teasing bother me. I love the beach. So, it's not like I would stop going to the beach just because of, di ba, parang stuff like that. So, yun, think, buti na lang. Because, I mean, other people aren't as lucky in terms of being judged or whatever. Though, I had one instance, I remember, when I was in grade 7 maybe. I was an honor student up until maybe 5th or 6th grade. Tapos 7th grade, I remember getting my lowest mark ever. And it was parang, pag line of 7, di ba? Pag ika Xavier. Pag line of 7,
That's
parang
bad
dead.
news.
As in, parang,
Yeah.
oh. So that was my lowest grade ever. From an 86 or 87, I think, in Chinese, I got 79. I got 79. So I was like freaking out because like as a child, like that's my first line of 7 ever. And I was just like, why? Like I look at my my scores and whatever, and they were not that bad. Yung it wouldn't, you know what I mean? So parang ako, I mean, I don't want to accuse or whatever. Parang it's just in my head. I was just like, is it because I'm Filipino? Yung parang ganun yung ko, diba? Kasi it's like, what? Pero that was just one like major siguro instance back then. But, parang again, thankfully I was never really traumatized as a kid because nga I was exposed to many different kinds of people. So, ayun. Ang haba ng kwento ko.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really relate. I think when you mentioned the report card, I just got flashbacks of
I know, diba?
looking at the, oh geez. Okay, wait. Before we continue, I noticed then you're very glowing, and I was wondering why my lighting was very bad, and then I noticed, my window is not open. So wait lang. Let me just get that real quick. Sorry.
Go lang. It's okay.
Okay. I hope that helps. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So you growing up in a Filipino-Chinese environment and community, I think I can relate with you a lot, as you said, since we come from pretty similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I think one of the more prominent experiences I've had in that community is, getting teased for being dark-skinned. Like since most of our peers aren't, or they don't look like us, and we're one of the very few pure Filipino kids in that
Though
pool.
alongside getting teased, they would also they'd also be jealous of the long eyelashes or like the big eyes, things like that. Then I grew up and then I was like, wait, but my eyes aren't that big. It's just because like back then I was the only one with big eyes. Parang ganon, diba? So wala, it was an interesting childhood.
Yeah. I didn't get that. I guess because I'm in an all boys school. But understandable naman, yeah. Seeing teasing, it didn't really, I mean, you being a good-natured person, as you said, it didn't really get to your head so much.
Yeah, I didn't let it na rin. Parang walang point.
Is it safe to say na those things you heard about being singled out as dark-skinned, did it carry on until later in your childhood or even adolescence, or did it have any effect when you got to high school, college?
Being dark-skinned kasi parang I've always loved being morena. Parang I never felt bad or whatever. Pero because nga of the norms, parang there were instances like as I mentioned from childhood na the teasing, and then growing up, parang especially with the work, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but especially with the work I'm in now, parang as an actress, I'm given roles to
Mm-hmm.
play. And of course, before, in my head, parang the, I in my head parang I felt like I wouldn't get roles because some roles required you to be white, or
Yeah.
some role, diba? Parang, or let's say as a child, like a Disney princess would automatically be what area. That's why I love Jasmine kasi she
Yeah.
wasn't white. Yung mga ganon.
Yeah.
So there were those instances, of course, and that's normal. But thankfully, parang as I grew older, or even as my career progressed, parang there were more and more stories about Filipinos.
Yeah.
There were more and more stories being written by Filipino women for Filipino women. Yung mga ganon. So parang, which made me love the skin I'm in even more, because it's like finally, in terms of representation, it's all across the board. Everyone is being represented well,
Yeah.
and even like, let's say with Broadway, of course there are still many things that could be improved in terms of colorism, but there are productions being created like Hamilton, where it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if you're white or you're dark skinned or whatever, they will cast you as Hamilton. They will cast
Yeah.
you as Eliza. You know what I mean? And there are Filipinos who've played the role of Eliza Hamilton. So things like that. It's interesting, and it's great how society, the norms of society, are slowly um, developing and
Mm-hmm.
slowly progressing, right? And if on a personal level, yun, parang there was a time, maybe when I was just starting um, my professional theater career. Now there was a time, I would do kasi parties on the side. So yun, as I
Yeah.
said earlier, yung Disney princess, I would perform as a Disney princess on the side. So I would find myself not going under the sun because I felt I may be too dark to wear a
Mm-hmm.
blonde wig, or
Yeah.
I may be too dark. You know what I mean? Yung
Yeah, I
parang
guess.
maybe baka mas malimit yung roles na pwede kong i-play if I had dark skin, things
Yeah.
like that. So parang, again, it's preference also. It's up to you as an actor to be able to blend, or it's up to you also to decide what roles you want to play, or how flexible or how adaptable your
Yeah.
look is, right? So, yun, things like that. Um, it's interesting, pero again, parang things have progressed and parang people also, I mean, times and people are changing. So, hopefully for the better, hopefully.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
high school, like in the dating perspective lang of things, these asked kasi if it carried over like the
Yeah.
whole Morena thing. Tapos parang my friend, she was telling me that there were Saverians daw saying na parang sayang daw kasi Filipina. And I'm just like,
Ah, jeez.
well,
Wild.
let me tell you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what's sayang. No, I'm just kidding. No, wala lang. It was
Oh
just
no.
something that I wouldn't say stuck with me forever, but
Yeah.
I never forgot it, only because that's how it is. That's how society works, like something as simple as that, like even just dating.
Yeah.
Yung there is that thought agad because of history, because of a
Yeah.
long history of how society um builds people and builds how people should interact with each other, or how people should see one another, diba? So yun lang. It was just a side thing.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you then if you ever experienced having been great walled, because I think I would want to like feature that kind of phenomenon on
Great.
like pag Chinese New
Yeah.
Year. But I don't know. Have you ever experienced
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that
Ako
besides the
hindi.
comment?
I've never dated kasi.
Yeah.
I've never dated anyone from Xavier. Siguro after that, I was just like, bye. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no. No, but even like kunyari prom, I remember I was invited, but I didn't even
Yeah.
go. Yung mga ganon.
Oh, jeez.
No, but okay lang. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't anything bad or anything, but it was just something na parang, yeah, well, that's how it is. Like,
Yeah.
diba? That's why parang there are people who are trying so hard to break the
Yeah.
norm, to kind of just break how society standards work and how people think. Ganon.
Yeah. I think given my limited experience with that. I think yeah, as a I guess teenager, it's just something that you have to accept, and like you don't really
Mm.
need any more explanation besides that's just how it is. And
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know, pretty sad
yeah.
when you think about it even more. But anyways,
Yeah,
moving on
anyway.
from high school, um, so how long have you been acting professionally?
Professionally since 2014. So it's
And this is
been,
mostly theater productions.
yes. Well, as in I really entered 20, I mean, I started working on my theater career
Mm-hmm.
2014. And
2014.
then
Okay.
as theater actors kasi, we are mostly freelance. So
Mm-hmm.
we do most of all the other things. So TV, film, commercials, VOs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there. That's kind of just how it's been since 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to a couple of other, I think, friends on the podcast who have gotten tried to get into acting or acting gigs. And then one of the more prominent experiences they bring up in that whole process is the casting process.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
take me through, because I also joined this group recently to maybe look for some leads for podcast interviewees. Um, the one for actors and actresses, the one casting face those one of those casting Facebook groups.
Facebook groups. Okay.
Yeah, and then I noticed when they have their it's the casting call where they have these
Yeah.
descriptions of what kinds of roles they want to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are the roles that you ended up getting like early in your career, and does that relate at all to being Morena and
Yeah.
having that look?
Well, my first professional theater production was Rock of Ages, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
Filipino. It's an original Filipino musical featuring the songs of Ages.
Yeah.
So nothing could be more Filipino than that, right? So it was basically a production of Filipinos,
Mm-hmm.
and so in terms of being Morena, I guess I entered at a good time,
Yeah.
because to be honest, 2014 I think was a really strong year for musicals or for theater in general. Ang daming production, not just original Filipino musicals, but also other musicals. So that year I did Rock of Ages, I did Grease.
Mm-hmm.
Grease is a very popular, diba? A very popular musical. So um parang again, I started at a good time,
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, because when I would audition, they would be for ayun, roles na a morena could fill.
Yeah.
Or so like kunyari for Greece, it was a rerun and I took the place of Shara Soto because and Shara Soto is obviously also morena like me, right? So things like that. But there are also, and I guess it's also important to be able to assess yourself
Mm-hmm.
when, I mean, in terms of casting, right? Like you look at what they ask for, and most of the time they tell you naman what they're looking for. You look at what they ask for, and you kind of check yourself na parang, okay, will I fit that role? If it,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's a show that you really want to be a part of, and you're just like, what the heck, I'll just show up, which is
Mm-hmm.
also
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
for me. Kasi it's like sometimes casters don't know what they're looking for, and when you show up, it could be you. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
ganon. For me, that's always what I tell people. The most important thing is to really show up, especially if it's something you really want or you're really passionate about going for. Ganon lang talaga siya. And lalo na ngayon, there are more and more original Filipino musicals
Mm-hmm.
being produced since God knows when. Parang dumadami lang siya at nang dumadami. So
Yeah.
there are just more opportunities for Morenas, Morenos. And ayun, it's interesting.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that
it's
says a
great
lot
actually.
about. Yeah, I think it says a lot about like the ways for Morenos and Morenos to get more representation is really yeah, one of the best ways is to really write roles for them as
Yeah,
opposed to
definitely.
like how you mentioned when it came to Hamilton. Like I mean at first glance, I think with with the story and the content of the production, you'd think it'll be a prominently white cast.
Yeah.
But then since the I don't know what you
Creator.
call it. Yeah, the creator, there you go. The creator made it a conscious decision to have a very inclusive outlook in that way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because Lin himself is part of the minority,
Yeah.
so he's a Latino. and he's Puerto Rican. So parang for him, it was important to just up the representation, right? Like
Yeah.
across the board. And dito naman, like in the Philippines, of course, like in theater, I think there are many opportunities for all kinds of people because there are all kinds of stories, parang
Yeah.
and again, more and more stories about Filipinos are being written. And um in terms of the other stuff naman, like syempre there the casting for advertisements,
Mhm.
that's completely different, a different
Yeah.
world. um and yun, mas ano din sila doon, mas meticulous, I guess, when it comes to casting because these are brands. And yeah, ayun. So that's again a different world. Parang
Yeah.
I have had a few. I have had advertisements, pero hindi pa ko, parang I wouldn't say it's confidence, but again, in terms of interest or priority, it's always been telling stories.
Yeah.
Yun yung ano ko, mas yun yung naging priority ko through the years.
Mhm. And I can imagine when it comes to being casted for productions, does it help that there's a precedent for a Morena to be casted in a role? Does that help? Like if you have someone or a Morena who does very well in the theater scene, does that kind of encourage uh
Definitely.
production to cast more Morenas? Yeah,
Well,
or not
I
really?
don't I don't think yun na yung parang it just all goes hand in hand, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Because nga, what we're always told as actors is first and foremost, we have to service the story.
Yeah.
So it depends on the story. So parang if it's a story, 'di ba? Parang if it's a story that tells of the Filipino, it would just be natural to cast
Yeah.
Filipino. And especially here in the country, there are so many talented people. So hindi ka mauubusan,
Mm-hmm.
which is great because again, there are so many more producers now of original Filipino work. So that's why again, this is pandemic aside, right? We're
Yeah.
like, of course, now it's another ball game because everybody lost their jobs basically. So it's a different it's different now, and
Yeah.
we are all just looking forward to the day that we could go back to the theater. Pero prior to COVID, that's what was happening. That was what was going down
Yeah.
basically. Because interestingly, like 2020, I was supposed to do 4 productions, and two two were Filipino originals, and
Uh-huh.
two were not. But I was supposed to do Tabing Ilog and Bongga Kaday, which are both original Filipino, and Morena role syempre. And
Yeah.
then the other one I was supposed to do, Anna in the Tropics, was set in Cuba. And
Mm-hmm.
the other one I was supposed to do, On Your Feet, I was supposed to play Gloria Estefan, who is Latina. So yun, things like that. So feeling ko, especially with the hunger of people to tell
Yeah.
stories, hindi mauubusan ang mga Moreno at Morena hindi mauubusan ng tao, I guess. Parang they
Yeah.
will keep looking. They will keep looking for Filipinos and to tell more stories. Parang ganon.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, relating to also being over the quarantine, Ang Huling El Bimbo became a very big phenomenon over that. And I think, yeah, it being streamed those, was it a couple days?
2
Or
days.
2 days?
2
Yeah,
days.
just exactly a couple days. Yeah. It gave
Yeah.
people, I think, a lot of people the very first taste of theater production.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as, I don't know, for me, I think theater is still a pretty niche kind of interest when it comes to, yeah, in the
For
Philippines.
sure. For sure, yeah.
But then,
Also because it's, well, one, expensive.
yeah, expensive. Yeah.
So, it's not something, and then ano pa, ibabiyahe mo pa siya.
Mm-hmm.
Yung ganun, yung parang it's not as accessible as
Yeah.
everything else. So, what Ang Huling El Bimbo did, not just for us, but for a lot of people, it's pretty amazing how
Mm-hmm.
it reached so many people in just the span of 2 days. And I would say something sorry,
Yeah.
sidetrack now. Something interesting about Ang Huling El Bimbo. What I loved about it is one, it's the first time for me as an actress to not wear, it's the least makeup I've ever had to wear
Okay. Nice.
on stage. Because as a theater actor, you're kind of, you have to pack on the makeup,
Yeah,
and you
for the
have
lights.
to, for the lights, for everything, you have to pack on the makeup, you have to put kilay, you have to put falsies, things like that. And that was normal for how many years for
Yeah.
me. Foundation, everything, all the steps. When Ang Huling El Bimbo happened, because of the theater, the nature of the theater of Resorts World Manila, Newport Theater, you have this huge stage, massive, like it's a 1.5 plus
Mm-hmm.
theater, right? But then they have cameras.
Yeah.
So the trick there was, for all of us, was we weren't allowed to wear too much makeup, because the moment the camera hit you, despite the lights, automatic makikita yung makeup. So
Yeah.
it's
So
tricky.
yeah.
It was tricky. Eh, my role, di ba, as Joy, my role as young Joy, I was what? I wasn't well off. I was a teenager, just going around every day selling
Yeah.
turon. Why would I wear so much makeup? So I
Yeah.
love the fact that it took me 5 minutes to prepare
Oh, nice. Okay.
my
Yeah.
face. Yung ganon, yung parang, and I guess it was the most bare I've
Mm-hmm.
ever been on stage. So not just mentally or spiritually, but even physically. I was just physically bare. And as an actress, just bare. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
there are like 7 million, over 7 million people just happened to see that, which we did
Yeah.
not expect, right? So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
pretty cool to see how the yung circumstances of the whole production, like what you said of that theater having cameras, and therefore you kind of have
Mm-mm.
to work around,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to makeup,
Yeah.
and then how that also inadvertently affects the your acting process of being bare and being, I don't know, does really not having as much makeup affect your performance, or does it help with like channeling whatever you
I
have to
think
channel to get the performance out?
as an actor, ako personally, as an
Yeah.
actor kasi, parang, one, again, we serve as a story. Two, we have to always tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So parang for me, to wear makeup also didn't feel right.
Yeah.
Didn't, because nga, if, kung walang cameras yan, kailangan yan kasi wash out. Pero parang it didn't feel right to wear too much makeup, because as Joy, ano yan eh, it was like a mix of film and theater in a
Yeah.
way. And we didn't even expect for Resorts World to release it to the public, right?
Yeah.
We just expected it to be in the theater. Ano? So um yun, so it's always to tell the truth. So I wouldn't say the makeup would affect, but it would also kind of contribute to me as a whole, me
Yeah.
carrying the role as like the entirety of it. So down to the last detail, like with the necklace and the
Yeah.
bracelet, like those things as an actor personally, parang those have meaning to me. So
Mm-hmm.
like nobody noticed na like the bracelet I had, Hector had the same one after yung mga ganyan. And people wouldn't
Yeah.
notice that.
Yeah.
But us as actors, those little details would help us
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
be the role, be as truthful as possible, be as authentic as possible. So yun. Another thing I loved about that role, or Angeling El Bimbo in
Yeah.
general, I would swim before every show, because that
Okay.
would, one, warm me up, but two, it would, the sun, like I just love the
Okay.
sun kasi.
Yeah.
But like for other roles kasi, I couldn't do that, because again, I'd have to be like light, fair
Yeah.
skinned
Yeah.
or whatever. So being Joy, parang I could again do whatever I want and be happy under the sun. so so to warm up, I would swim before every show. So wala lang. That was just, again, it would help. It would help in all aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ayun.
I want to kind of pick your brain on what you say about being in service of the story and actors being in service of the story. So I was interviewed this one time about like from Moreno Morena, and the guy brought up something of like my perception of maybe mass media in compared to and mass media and its role in forming our perceptions of beauty. And then I brought up how I think just based on my thinking of the whole issue, like for example, you have the soap operas being produced, and then they usually hire people who would appeal to the most
Mm.
people.
Yes, of
So of
course.
course you would go with yung mga mestiza, fair-skinned actors and actresses to fill up the lead roles. And then I also brought up this idea I had of um, how it's different when it comes to theater, because I think you really need to be more talented to get through to those roles compared to. I'm not saying this is the exact truth, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
just an opinion. Yeah, you have to be more like your talent really has to anchor the whole
yeah.
you being chosen as a lead. And
Mm-mm.
does that have any truth in it? Or I don't know, what do you think about like
Feeling ko, ano lang,
yeah.
parang, because nga, it's like, we're talking about, let's say, TV, right? Or like, based on what you said, it's show business. So
Mhm.
again, business is still part of what it is,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they will really get to people that can
Yeah.
sell. But there are, I wouldn't say most of them are fair skinned, because again, they're the biggest stars like
Yeah.
Catherine Bernardo, Nadine Lustre, diba? These are morenas, and they are very talented. And so I wouldn't say naman na it's that different,
Yeah.
that theater people are more talented. I think it's really more of the ethic or the process of how of the output.
Yeah.
Parang it's how theater people produce a theater production and yung output niyan. And then it's how TV people, like what they have to, the lengths they have to go through in order to um, get that output. Parang
Yeah.
ganon. So, iba-iba siya. And personally, ako, I'm, like, because I've tried TV, I've tried film, and again, primarily theater actor ako. I have a lot to learn when it comes to finding my camera or like the
Yeah.
right angle or whatever. And um it's again years in the making na ganito yung process nila na iba sa proseso ng taga-teatro.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say it's like people in theater are more talented, but it's just people in theater have a different skill set.
Yeah.
So parang it's a separate thing.
Yeah.
So it's true what they say na people on TV parang have different skills. Like kunyari, let's say something like as specific as crying on cue.
Mhm.
That's a skill. That's a talent talaga na they develop because they do it so often. Na teleserye, yung parang pag nag-action ka, kailangan umiiyak ka na.
Yeah.
Ako as a theater actor, I cannot do that. I'm used to the theatrical process, which is going from rehearsals and then bringing it to the stage.
Yeah.
So again, iba-iba lang talaga siya. Tapos yun, and then again, yung show business is a completely different thing because they have their own goals or they have
Mhm.
their own
Yeah.
ano,
The priorities
'di ba?
are
Parang
different.
yeah, their priorities are just different. And there are a lot of, I mean, again, television is different from film because there are a lot of filmmakers that are also, kumbaga, passionate about their
Yeah.
films. And that's another, ano pa, kumbaga, iba-iba siya. So, though it's compared all the time,
Mhm.
in terms of talent, it's hard to compare. Kasi
Yeah.
nga, it's a different skill set. Yun.
Yeah.
Yun lang.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because I also no, this was last year, but I binged your I Love You Hater or Love Me Hater. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Over the
Yeah.
quarantine, I didn't think I'd
Yeah.
finish like all the whole thing in one night.
Yay!
Yeah, it was really
Mabilis lang
good.
siya. It's a short, ano eh. It's a
Yeah, I feel
short
like bitin pa
series.
nga the
Mm-mm.
6 episodes. No, was it
Was
6?
it
It felt
four lang.
yeah 4. That's
Yeah.
a lot less than
Yeah.
I'd expect.
Yeah,
But
we
yeah,
shot that over quarantine. Yeah, during the quarantine.
no, but it was really good. I enjoyed like the discourse it brought up about Yeah, yun nga,
Mm-mm.
yung teleseries and even locally
Yes.
produced movies and that whole yung artistry and content versus the yung business aspect of it and
Yeah.
that whole thing. I don't know. It's very interesting as someone who
Mm-mm.
observes that then and yeah and
And
that kind of
it's true eh. That's why I think also it was very interesting. Yung discourse din, totoo siya eh.
yeah.
Parang the writer and director, Siege Ledesma, she's a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So, feeling ko parang, again, close to home siya when she created it. So, ayun. It was nice to also see the different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And that
Yun.
being a story about mass media. And yeah, of course, we have to acknowledge mass media being one of the very big propagators of our perception of beauty. Because, like,
Yeah.
when you think movie star, you have this image in your head. And then, but it's
Mm-mm.
nice that now, like, when you think of movie star or bida or lead actor or actress, I think there's kind of more of a mix of looks of people. I don't know
Yeah,
if you can
definitely.
feel that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. The diversity now
Diversity.
is
Yeah.
more prominent than before. Lalo na ngayon. I mean, again, for me, I have nothing against people who prefer to have lighter skin. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Kumbaga, you do you. Like whatever you want, as long as you are comfortable with it, as long as you love whatever you have or
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want. Parang for me, ikaw na yan. And that's up to
Yeah.
you, right? And yeah, now parang mas diverse na talaga lahat. 'Di ba? Parang even when it comes to like all kinds of art, when it comes to films, when it comes to content creation,
Yeah.
parang people kind of just look for their people and stick to the people that they can relate to, parang ganon.
Yeah. And also when it comes to content creation, I really like how you kind of laid up that segue. So your streaming career has blown up quite a lot over the quarantine. How'd you get into that, into streaming on Kumu, live streaming, that whole world
Okay, to
of
be
yeah,
honest, ako kasi, I never thought I'd ever be live streaming. I'm more of a, I mean, that's why I like live streaming, or that's why I picked live streaming over like other options like vlogging
yeah.
or teleseries, or TV stuff, ganyan. Because I this whole thing happened during the parang peak of the lockdown. So it was
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 months into the lockdown already, and it didn't look like anything was going to let up. And I think that this was a time na I was being asked to audition na for teleseries. And then I found out that teleseries, people were required to be locked in, meaning
Yeah.
they had to be in one place for a minimum of 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And I just wasn't comfortable to go out of my house. I was just afraid,
Yeah, yeah.
which is normal, right? So parang I was just scared to go out of my house. And I'm like, kaya funny kasi parang I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, there's nothing, absolutely nothing, ganyan. And then I noticed people using this app called Kumu. And it's very few. Now kasi ang dami ng tao na sa Kumu. Pero
Mm-hmm.
that time, this was May, ang dami, konti lang. Like, a few of my friends, theater friends, were using it. And I'm like, interesting. What is this? Like, and then, when Bimbo blew up, I remember people were asking if I was ever gonna go live or if I was gonna create a YouTube account or
Yeah.
things like that. So parang ako, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to kind of try it out, test out the whole live streaming thing. Eh ako, I'm not so good with words. I don't see myself as eloquent.
Mm-hmm.
So parang ako, how am I gonna face people? Like
Yeah.
and of course during the lockdown, medyo nasa bubble ka eh. Kasi parang, 'di ba? Parang I mean, ako as a theater actor, I can give me a show to do. I'll learn it, I'll do
Yeah.
it. But give me like make me perform as myself, I'll be super
Yeah,
shy. Yung
yeah.
ganon. So yun, the whole live streaming thing kind of required me to just be in front of a camera and talk to people. So I just tried it out, and then it just became a thing. Yung
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it, and Kumu kasi, I love the community that Kumu has, or the environment that they set for people. They wanted it to be kind of like a virtual Disneyland where
Yeah.
people just kind of pop in and out and just have fun and enjoy each other's company and really create authentic connections, because it's a Filipino app. It's a
Yeah.
Filipino live streaming app, as opposed to all the other streaming apps na worldwide or international. Parang you ang daming OFW din sa Kumu, mga ganyan. So it's kind of a place to really connect Filipinos.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed that I got to meet so many new people, and I got to meet people also who saw Ang Huling El Bimbo. I got to meet people who watched my shows through the years, and then it also became a creative outlet for me. Parang it because nga I wasn't performing anywhere else. I kind of used Kumu as my outlet for like singing
Yeah.
and for learning new songs. Like, to be honest, 2020 was probably the year that I learned the most songs. As in, it became lang a creative outlet, and it kind of kept me sane,
Mhm.
along with many other people that would just hang out in my stream. And so it's fun. And then it was fun coming up with, as in, I cut my hair on the stream. Ganong level.
Okay. Nice.
As in, so I kind of had to like come up with different things na no pressure naman
Yeah,
din,
no
because
pressure.
parang, again, it was a safe space. So there were days na I'd have shows. There were days I'd have musical theater streams or OPM nights or open mics or yun. So, and then there were days that I would like, okay, in the next 2 weeks I'm going to cut my hair on the stream. Mga
Yeah.
ganyan. So
Wow.
it's fun. It's fun. Masaya. It really did make me survive 2020, I think. I always told the people in Kumu, parang, if not for Kumu, I don't know what I would have done
Mhm.
2020, because talagang from having a fully scheduled year,
Yeah.
that was just taken away. I mean, for most of us theater actors. So you would find a lot of us theater actors on Kumu, actually. And it's interesting kasi for me, it's a place where I could authentically be myself, na hindi, well, syempre may mga dadaan talaga, hindi may
Yeah.
iwasan, may mga dadaan at magja-judge, pero yung mga nagsistay, yung nandun lang, yun, parang you could call them eventually your friends. And
Mhm.
it's interesting kasi that's where you can make really genuine connections. And I never thought that an online platform could kind of get you there, like could
Mhm. Yeah.
help you find genuine, authentic connection. So yun. It's cool. It's
Yeah, the
cool.
social aspect I think is pretty amazing of being a live streamer as compared to
Yeah.
like learning a role and then giving your best performance of that. Do you ever feel like you have to perform yourself on stream, or is it have you come to the level of like you can really be who you are when you're with your
Yeah.
friends or family?
Medyo ganun. Kasi for me, it's so much more tiring to kind of put on
To
put
be
on
on always.
to be
Yeah.
someone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tiring. And there were days, like, full disclosure, there were days like at the beginning of the lockdown when I'd have interviews or I'd have shows,
Mhm.
live shows prior to live streaming, na I'd have to go on and perform. I'd really like break down prior to a
Yeah.
live
Oh man.
show, because it was just so parang in my head, because it was a performance. Ako medyo I'm hard on myself as a performer, as an
Yeah.
actor. So I would just get so riled up. Also, siguro of the whole being in lockdown and things like that. So prior to a performance, I'd get so riled up and I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So I'd have to just like let it out before a
Yeah.
performance and then go on. So yun, those are the things that the platform did for me din talaga. And it helped a lot, like with my anxiety and with just being a panicky person.
Yeah.
Parang, yeah. So, wala. The breakdowns really stopped. Like,
That's
because
good.
of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, because of that outlet. Because I was able to also learn the ropes, I guess.
Yeah.
And going back, parang live streaming is I there were days, of course, that I would pressure myself. There were days that I'd go back to being scared. But because parang I would remind myself that I'm a theater actor in a live streaming app. I'm not a live streamer. I was never
Mm-hmm.
meant to be a live streamer. So it was again another skill. So I would always remind myself not to be too hard on
Yeah.
myself because we're all adjusting. It's not just me, but everybody is adjusting because of the pandemic, right? So yun yung parang naging parang struggle nung 2020 apart from everything else. Pero
Yeah.
yun, yung parang how to kind of just stay afloat. So
Yeah.
Kumu helped a lot. Live streaming helped a lot.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool. And yeah, when also being a public figure when it comes to live streaming, a theater actress, I'm sure you've gotten or have you gotten any messages from people saying that, oh, thank you for being such and such role model for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that happened
I
a lot?
yeah, definitely. When I mean, parang what I liked, I guess, about 2020 was it kind of bridged a gap between me and the people who used to watch me
Yeah.
in live performances. It introduced me to so many more people who also just saw me on Ang Huling El Bimbo. And because nga everyone was online,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of really just connected everybody in a way. And I received many messages, which of course I'm super thankful for. And again, sometimes I get that on Kumu, like a comment would just pop up and I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I'm just like, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm really grateful. But like to be honest, like on Kumu, I've cried so many times. Like it's embarrassing, but at the same time, like wala kayong magagawa, nandito kayo, tumatambay
Yeah.
kayo dito.
Yeah.
Iiyak ako. Yung parang I'm overwhelmed. Like so there it was crazy to find kasi that kind of love. It's a different, of course, it's a different kind of love because it's, how could you find that kind of environment or that kind of safe space amidst everything
Everything.
going on
Yeah.
around us, right? It's like, what at the end of the day to be surrounded by good people, genuine people. I mean, that's what all of us want, right? So in a way, it yeah, it helped me a lot, and it changed me also. Parang if 2020 did anything, it just opened my eyes to everything.
Yeah.
Kumbaga, it revealed, diba? It revealed so many things. It exposed so many things. It kind of weeded out it weeded out the bad,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of made you go back to basics and kind of, diba? Parang it made you go back to what's important, or what's most important, which is talagang your loved ones, the genuine people that are in your
Yeah.
life, to really like, yeah. And also, I guess, like, because now of live streaming and using my voice and stuff like that, being in the whole public
Yeah.
aspect of things, parang it also helped me find my voice a lot, as in 2020, and the whole live streaming thing, and the importance of really using your voice
Yeah.
in the platform, and in all platforms actually. Parang wala that's it's the reality of it. Parang it's so important to be able to say what you need to say,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
diba? And to be able to stand your ground as well. So it's tricky, but at the same time, everybody's learning. Ako personally, I'm just learning, and I have to keep on learning
Yeah.
along the way, parang ganon.
I've also been able to talk to a couple of my friends for the podcast who are content creators. And then something I usually ask them is if they feel any pressure to keep doing what they're doing. And then I also kind of want to ask you that. But then, yeah, acknowledging the fact that like yung product nila is kind of different from your product, being a performer. Can I say that? Yeah, since your live streams, your theater productions are consumed in a different kind of way than how content creators
Do you mean like
products are consumed.
vloggers and
Like Instagram people, like usually photos lang sila, or like say you have a certain theme when it comes to your content, and do you see yourself
ah
making those kinds of things like 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
yeah, yeah. Ako kasi hindi. In terms of like aesthetic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Natawa ako sa sarili kasi in-imagine ko yung aesthetic ko. Parang hindi ako masyado ma-curate.
Yeah, yeah.
Hindi ako, I'm not, I haven't gone as far as to curating my feed or stuff like that. Again, it's really what is more lasting for me personally is just um being myself online, promoting brands I believe in,
Mm-hmm.
supporting local businesses. That's another thing that I really advocated for last year, which was small businesses.
Yeah.
Kasi I noticed a lot. Parang I felt like it was also not naman an obligation, pero social responsibility also
Mm-hmm.
na if you have any power kasi to help other people or if you have like even just the tiniest of power to uplift someone else or to empower somebody else, parang it's your social obligation to do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's really tiny as like sharing a story or you know what I mean? Kasi parang again, because of Ang Huling El Bimbo, something's completely unexpected. Parang in terms of following, ano siya, medyo lumaki talaga siya. And again, I didn't know what to do with that. And then parang learning along the way, I realized like it wouldn't hurt, especially now, to just help another out
Yeah.
or to support one another, especially during this time, right? So parang so ganon. So it's really more of that and not naman specifically creating something.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Parang again, it's more of the longevity of
Yeah, yeah.
everything. Parang I feel like that's just how I go. And in terms of numbers, I know it's a big thing now, especially that everyone's online and whatever. Pero I noticed kasi numbers really fluctuate. And as I am only human and there when it fluctuates, parang it's like, did I do something wrong? 'Di ba ganun naman tayo as
Yeah.
people. It's like parang what can I do or what happened that made it fluctuate or whatever. And I'm just like parang I realized it's just how things are and you aren't the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
'Di ba? Parang you aren't the numbers that you see. Many times people blame the algorithm or
Yeah.
whatever. And ako personally, parang I'll just, it's not, it's never pressure to be myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
Parang there shouldn't be pressure in being your true self because that's just who you are and you are you anyway. So might as well just be that.
Yeah.
Parang for me, it's just, I wouldn't say easier, but there are days that are tiring. There are days na I find myself being burnt out. And parang, ano lang, assessing yourself, take a break. Parang take care of yourself. And then, go lang. Parang just, because, wala that's what, we just have to do that Parang, we have to be able to assess ourselves and kind of take breaks when we need to.
Yeah.
And do what we feel is right for us
Yeah.
personally, right? So yun lang naman.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. I think I'm not sure if it comes with your, I was gonna say age, but like if it comes with your experience or you being a theater actor. But I think you guys
Yeah.
have more of or you're more experienced with being aware being aware of how you're inhabiting yourself. So like you're more
Maybe.
aware of, yeah.
Oo.
Because
Parang, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, when like what you said about in taking breaks, not being a slave to the numbers of yung social media, I think for majority of people it's very hard to separate themselves from
Mm.
like that facade online that they're
Yes.
trying to project. But then for you
Yes.
as an actor, I think, yeah, you being more experienced with knowing yourself, inhabiting yourself, does that make sense? So you know
I
how
think,
you work in all those different situations, how to,
yeah.
yeah.
And as a theater actor kasi, like, we're used to getting down and dirty. You know what I mean? Yung parang, it's kind of, it's not an easy, like, I would say one of the hardest
Yeah,
professions out
yeah,
there because you have to deal with rejection all the time. So to be a theater actor, you kind of really have to have tough skin, and you kind of have to be strong in all aspects because if you can't even handle rejection, which is a normal part of our job, 'di ba? Parang, and I guess we bring that everywhere we go. So because we are, I wouldn't say used to it because we could never get used to it. Even
yeah.
auditions, personally, I will never get used to auditions ever. Pero
Mm-hmm.
it's just something that we have to do because we want to do something so much. Parang because we love the work so much. And I guess maybe it's that. It's the fact that we have to go through things like that. And we it our job requires us be to deal with people,
Yeah,
to deal with rejection. And with people, meaning all kinds of people. It's not just our friends. It's not just like we could be working with people we don't like. I mean, it's normal. And we just have to work with them. We have to be able to work with them. And more than talent, kasi in the theater industry, it's really, you have to be able to work with people. Otherwise, wala eh. So feeling ko, because of all those things, I mean, I could go on and this podcast might turn into 5 hours. Pero,
that's fine.
pero, um, parang because we take that wherever we go, maybe that's why it is natural for us to just be ourselves.
Yeah.
Because also, well, ako personally, because also it's our job to be other people. You know what I
Dang.
mean?
Yeah.
So because it's our job to be other people, we actually enjoy. Well, I can only speak for myself. I actually enjoy being able to be my genuine, authentic self.
Dang.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think to be an actor din kasi in general, parang empathy plays a huge part of it. So if we're connecting being a theater actor to being a public figure or to being an influencer, quote unquote, parang it's just you have to be aware, not just self-aware but completely aware of what's going on around you,
Yeah.
right? So again, social responsibility mo rin yun. And like I said earlier, I'm just learning all the time, continuing to just educate myself and to learn. To yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine it takes a huge amount of grit and yeah, that empathy and awareness of oneself when it comes to being an actor, and especially in your field. And I'm not sure
Yeah.
how your experiences in live streaming has stacked up in those aspects. But I'm sure I don't know. I just feel like being a public figure in so many aspects of the
Aspects.
media is so intimidating for
It
any
is
other person.
tricky.
But yeah,
Mm-mm.
but seeing such a successful Morena, such as yourself, in this
Well,
field is very could be very inspiring to lots of people because I don't know, especially with that new form of yung streaming. Like we don't
mm-mm.
really have much of a streaming community yet. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
seeing
Though
one
it's growing, I would
yeah,
say. Yeah.
but then yeah, seeing lots of people who look like us in the forefront of that is really inspiring, I think, especially for the future generations. I don't know about our generation where it is like mostly like billboards, yung mga movies and TV and stuff like that. But yeah, yung new media stuff is pretty interesting for me then, and how yeah, our perception of what is beautiful and what isn't
Yeah.
is
It's pretty cool actually if you go on Kumu and you kind of just wander around because again, 99% of the streamers on Kumu are Filipino because it
mhm,
is a Filipino
yeah,
community, right? So it's interesting to see the different, not tricks, pero the different people that you can meet on Kumu or the different, parang wala eh, you, again, it's finding your people,
yeah,
like in real life, it's finding your people online, right? So parang because we're all such different people, parang, well, parang you will end up gravitating towards like-minded
Yeah.
people. So nakakatuwa siya. Nakakatuwa to see all kinds of Filipinos on Kumu and all kinds of live streamers. It's actually quite fun.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And I wish we had that kind of access to those kinds of people when we were growing up. I don't know. I feel like sayang being
Iba,
born a
oo.
couple years back. Yeah.
Okay lang din because it kind of parang for me kasi, if you're exposed to more things, or like kunyari tayo, we are exposed to other, I mean, not social media, but like the other aspect of it, or pre-social media, yung mga ganyan. So parang, for me, being exposed to all of it, you just have to, again, continue learning
Yeah.
and continue adjusting or adapting. And it kind of just um, widens your range, I guess, as a person, and stretches
Mm-hmm.
like your what you know, parang ganon.
Okay. Yeah. And I think we can wrap up in a bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any Morena role models? Is that a thing for you? If you have any, if you don't, that's fine.
Morena role
Like when it comes to
models.
theater or acting in
Yeah.
general, or
Well, of course, I mean, for sure, Lea Salonga. I mean, she is a representation of a Filipina worldwide, like globally, right? And the respect lang that she's gained because of the artist that she is. Definitely, wala. Kailangan i-acknowledge yun.
mm-hmm.
And, sino dami. Actually, madami. And I applaud, like, of course, there's our Miss Universes and, parang those who are proud to be Morena and proud to be Filipina. I mean, it just, lalo na, Pia Wurtzbach, Catriona, parang they're brave because they are, like, exposed to the world and everybody expects them to be perfect, but they
Mm-hmm.
aren't afraid to say they aren't. Parang for me, they're some of the bravest Filipinas out there because personally, I don't know what it would be like to be exposed that much,
Yeah.
because ako parang I feel like I'm in a safe parang in a way a public figure, but at the same time not as
Public.
out there.
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
as out
not
there.
as
Yeah.
parang not as out there, not as exposed. To have that many eyes on you, I do not parang it will surely have an effect on you, diba? So parang for them to be able to stand their ground and to be able to just take it all in and to still have um their principles and parang to be clear on what their principles are. Parang sobrang nakakahanga talaga.
Yeah.
So ayun.
And okay, what about, do you have any dream project you want to land in the near future, in the far future?
I have a couple of projects this 2021 that I am of course we don't know. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
last year there were so many plans. I mentioned this in one of my posts. Last year there were so many plans, none of them pushed through. And then we kind of had to find our ground and like find our footing again and all. This year there are a couple of things I am hoping for that I cannot disclose. Pero I'm hoping for the best because these parang in the works na these projects have been in the works.
Yeah.
So crossing my fingers and hoping for the best because we don't know what's going to happen in the near future. I always like last year I inatake ako ng anxiety so many times wondering what would happen because of the uncertainty, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Parang I mean all of us went through that. Because we are all wondering what wala we
Yeah.
didn't know. So now we still don't know, pero kumbaga I guess in a way we are all readier for what's to come. So ayun, there are things I'm hoping for, so at least may
Mm-hmm.
mga things to look forward to.
Yeah, that's good.
But of course we're talking dreams, all I dream for
Yeah.
is to be back on stage. So
Nice.
yun
Yeah.
talaga, parang we're just waiting for the theater to be open again, to be able to rehearse again. And again, that looks like it looks like it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
So we're just praying for that. Now one day we just get to do that again. So yun.
Yeah. Hopefully very, very soon.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's about it for the podcast. Is there anything you want to plug, by the way, before I close this off?
Wala naman. Just follow me on my socials. That's where Instagram is where I usually announce all my stuff. Um, and Instagram, yeah, at Gab Pangilinan. I'm also at Gab Pangilinan on Twitter, on Laika, and on Kumu. And I stream quite often, maybe 3 times a week. And yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Okay, thanks so much again for joining me for this very special episode of the podcast, Gab.
Thank you.
Yeah, I learned
Thanks
a
for
lot,
having me.
and yeah, nice to pick your brain about all these other things. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Juro. Thank you also. Thanks for having
Bye.
me. Enjoyed it.
Yay. Bye.